All right, we'll get started here. If you don't know me, I'm Dr. Eric Hahn, one of the chiropractors here. And if you didn't get a chance, there's water and there's snacks over there. And so if you feel like you need to get up and grab another one of those, feel free to get up and grab an extra water or snack or whatever. What we're going to be going over tonight is basically the swine flu information. And so some of this stuff is going to promote a lot of questions, and so if you feel like you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and ask a question at any time. I'll try to answer to the best of my knowledge. I did put on our website, it's cottagegroveChiro.com. There's some really good video links that you might want to check out. There's some reading, a lot of this information that I'm going to be going over tonight. I put the references on the website so you can go and look at it in more detail, and those have links to other websites and other references that you can go and check out. And so it's got some really good information on our website. And you'll see links right on the top of the website, and then if you go over into the members section, you just type in Oasis as the username and Oasis as the password. It's going to be under videos. There's a video by Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. There's another video by a medical doctor and neurologist, and those would be really good ones to check out for more information. So don't just take my word for it. Go and do a little bit of extra research on your own. But there's basically going to be a couple different things that we're going to talk about tonight. What is the swine flu? What's this all about? How does the swine flu shot work? We're going to be hearing a lot more about that in the coming up future. I believe that October is going to be now available. We're starting to hear some of it on the media. Just last week they had their conference, and now they can start advertising for the shot. And so that's going to be coming up. And what can we do to keep our families healthy, whether we decide to get the shot or we decide not to get the shot? What else can we do to be healthy? And so that's really going to be the key ingredient, is what can we do to stay healthy during this season, whether there's swine flu or other flus or other illnesses going around, because that's the key. We want to be healthy. So where did this new swine flu thing come from? Well, there's a few different theories out there. The one theory, which is the popular theory in science or from the CDC, is that we had a pig has a virus, pig gives the virus to a bird gives the virus to a human, and they swap DNA through the whole mix. So it's possible, this little chart was taken from the CDC website and kind of explains how that works. But if you think about how many birds are being exposed to pigs and then going and now exposing themselves to humans, it doesn't really quite add up. And so the virologists and the people that are actually studying it and studying the DNA and actually breaking it down, well, they've got a different theory about where this actually came from. And I believe they're saying that it was released from a vaccine manufacturer. It was a mistake that somehow got released into the public. So as they were giving out random shots in different countries, the virus mutated in the lab, and they have evidence that they were testing avian flu and swine flu and human DNA. They were testing this in the laboratory, and then as they mix those DNAs in the laboratory, it gets released. And so is there any evidence that they've actually been busted for this? Well, actually they sent a bunch of vaccines overseas to Austria, and when they got the vaccines overseas, they did their own random tests on these vaccines to find out, are they legit or are they contaminated, and they found that they were all contaminated with avian flu. And that's the one thing that they're saying, is that this strain of flu has avian flu mixed in with it. So that's what makes it different than the old swine flu that's been going around for years, starting in the 70s. This one has the bird flu virus mixed in with it. So that's where they're saying this can happen, or it must have potentially been released from one of the laboratories. And so the laboratory that had the contaminated stuff was actually in Chicago, sent it overseas, and then they got busted for it. So unfortunately that happened. So what are the symptoms that we get if we actually have the swine flu? Well, it's virtually the same as the regular flu. So this year's version of the flu is the swine flu. It's just a different version. They call it H1N1. Basically, when flu changes forms, it's very sloppy as it copies itself. And so like chicken pox, if you're exposed to chicken pox, your body recognizes that chicken pox. The chicken pox is the same year after year after year. and your body gets exposed to that, and you typically don't get that again. Very rarely do you ever have chickenpox a second time, and definitely very rarely a third time. Whereas flu, when it copies itself, it's really sloppy, and so it changes really rapidly. It's constantly mutating and changing, so technically you could have the flu 2 or even 3 times in 1 year if it's constantly changing and mutating. And so right now they're saying, well, the swine flu is relatively mild, so the symptoms are the same as regular flu. They're concerned that it's going to mutate or change and then become one of these deadlier versions of the flu, which there's no evidence, there hasn't been a single case that that's changed or mutated one little bit at all. But that's what they're concerned about. And so how do they find out if you have it? Well, the only way to know for sure is to do a blood test on you to see if you've been exposed to this specific version of the flu. So they'll test your blood, and what they're looking for is an antibody to H1N1, or what they call the swine flu. And so if our body sees this virus and then recognizes and attacks it, it builds up these antibodies, which are basically war cells. And we'll learn a little bit more about these antibodies in a little bit. Those war cells will then attack the swine flu, and that's how they get rid of it. That's how your body builds up a memory to it. So as they're trying to make a vaccine for it, what they're trying to do is to get you to build up these antibodies, so those can be circulating in your body before you'd be exposed, and then those antibodies will then go and fight it off much faster. And so we'll get an idea of it. Does that actually work? Nearly all the people who have died have had immune suppressing problems. So we may hear on the news media, well, it's attacking people in the middle age range. It's not just a disease for old people. It's not just a disease for babies. It's actually attacking people in the 24 to 64-year-old range. And in fact, 64% of the people that have died have been in this age range between 24 and 64. So that's many of the people that are here tonight. But what they don't tell you is almost every single one of those people has had some other significant problem affecting their immune system. Either they were taking drugs to suppress their immune system, or they had some other chronic disease that was causing them to have a serious problem ahead of time. And so it's the addition of then also getting sick with this that kind of pushed them over the edge. And I believe it was 2/3 of the children that have died have had serious neurological problems ahead of time. So the child was already very sick, then contracted the flu or the swine flu, and then that pushed them over the edge. And so it's not quite like what the media says. If you're healthy, your chances of dying from this are very, 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 very small. And on those websites that I put on our website, the links, you can read some of the actual data that has how low that is. So why all the hype? Why are we so worried if the symptoms are the same as the flu and maybe even a little bit less severe than the normal flu? Well, basically I said follow the money trail, and I have a little picture here. Basically, this fear of unknown, it creates a lot of excitement, and it creates a lot of fear, and fear sells in the media. If you look at the newspaper articles, they're talking about fear and things that are going to create some anxiety, and so people don't know exactly how this works, and so the media can really capitalize on it. It's going to sell a lot of news, and basically there's lots of money to be made by the pharmaceutical industries. So if you can sell some vaccines or sell some medications or sell some things that are going to be apparently helping people with this major problem, then you're going to be able to stand to make quite a bit of money from it. And in fact, the government has already spent quite a pile of money on developing vaccines and paying manufacturers for that. And so here's the number that we've spent from our government so far, $1.8 billion. And this was as of May through July that we've spent this much money, so that number is only going to go up. And so these are the 5 different companies that we've already paid money to develop the vaccine and manufacture it. They've paid enough money to manufacture 300 million vaccines, which is one for every man, woman, child, infant, person in the United States. And so what did we spend all of our money on? Well, we spent some money on this bulk vaccine antigen, which basically is the actual virus itself. And so we have a small amount of actual antigen. And so this amount of antigen or this amount of virus has to thus make it throughout the whole entire population. bulk virus concentrate. It's about $61,000, $61 million in there. And then here's a huge category here, which is bulk oil and water adjuvant. So here's what we're spending our money on. And so what are these two categories right over here?